Welcome to another Reply Day Friday. I'm here with my good friends and good on camera, Kyle Bossman, and Brandon Jones. Hi guys, thanks for joining me.
Hello, how are you?
Okay.
Good on camera.
So let's stop with this artifice and go straight to the comments. And I'm gonna kick it off because I had I guess I did a little bit of flame baiting this week or last week when I asked why are we still interested in Final Fantasy Versus 13. Though I did include myself as one of the people who I am interested. It looks cool, but it has been so long. And don't scorn Square Enix fans. There's some nasty stuff, but I think some people had some choice comments as well. Shirokura says 2 words, Tetsuya Nomura, and I think that's a lot of people, a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans, lots of character design fans from World Ends With You, and a lot of his other stuff.
They'll be excited about any game he makes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, Barreltbot says, to be entirely honest, it brings us closer to Kingdom Hearts 3, which I think is kind of funny, because if you think he's been doing all these little side projects for Kingdom Hearts,
right, and
then Versus has been like the opus, right?
Yeah.
In waiting. How can you work on 2 opuses at once? So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, I think the idea is so once that game's finally done, then they can move on to Kingdom Hearts 3.
Right, but again, I think there's this this is me that is wondering about these HD games. Final Fantasy did it, and Versus is still a long ways coming. And look how linear 13 was, and obviously 13.2 was able to do stuff, and now we have 13.3 kind of out of nowhere. The end of the trilogy. Poor Lightning.
Well, that's what frustrates me about it, is the whole Fabula Nova Crystallis thing. It's that didn't amount to anything, right? It's that was marketed when they first, well, obviously, but that's what kind of frustrates me about Square Enix is, they want you to get excited about a new thing and almost kind of completely forget or don't make any mention to the fact that what they originally intended didn't work out, or that, they failed at so many things to get to that point. They're just kind of oh, hey, we're doing this. And you're like, well, yeah, but that didn't work last time. And they're what didn't work? This is our new thing.
I think we're finally going to see that. You know what I mean? I think we're finally going to see that acknowledgement of, hey, we're moving on. Do you know what I mean? I think it's about to happen.
I think it would help.
Yeah.
I think it would. I mean, and maybe that's just an American audience thing, but I think that would help me endear myself to the company a little more.
Did you think Agni's philosophy changed your opinions about modern day Square at all? I mean, especially, I don't mean Enix, I don't mean Eidos, I mean Square, I mean the Final Fantasy stuff.
I mean, not really, because it's not a game, is it? So it's even more just showing us things that are never going to amount to anything really until we see the final product.
There was a really interesting survey linked with Agni's philosophy that said, it was would you be okay with this woman being the protagonist of the next Final Fantasy game and stuff like that? And, seeing hey, do you guys like Agni? Do you guys like what you saw there? And it was interesting to see that. It was interesting to see if they are gauging opinions and seeing hey, maybe this lady could be the protagonist.
Yeah, polling for this stuff's always weird. id famously said they never use focus groups, and other people say they focus group everything.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Oh, no, it's Pac-Man Ghost. You remember them? The 4 different versions of Pac-Man Ghost that was recently?
No. Oh, that sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think I followed it closely.
It's just another really interesting peeling behind that. Anyway, more questions.
Well, I think just really quick, Owie gave this guy named Owie, which I think is a good name. He gave me a list, and this is all the reasons that I think Versus sounds awesome. Jump to real-time combat and not turn-based, or a hybrid that can't figure out what it wants to be. There's going to be a lot of gameplay content. There's going to be hijacking enemy vehicles, an overworld with travel and immersion, diverse and versatile combat system, and dynamic cutscenes.
Just
and
directly answered your question.
And he said, I would go on, but why this question is even being asked is beyond me. And I'm going to sound like a big jerk, but I'm worried if they can implement all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And just one last one. This was a good example of someone who got angry. From Wampa. It looks fucking cool. And yes, we should still be excited. Why does development time dictate quality to the gaming journalists? Just be fucking patient. Something that looks cool is cool. I don't know if I believe in that part, but the end. Stop making up dumb imaginary time limit stuff when stuff stops being interesting.
Something went wrong. Something went wrong. You have to admit that. He did not plan for development times to take this long, period. That's the end of the story. I mean, it's if something takes 8 years, that's fine. But, if it's something like Destiny is saying they're going to have a 10-year investment, it's oh, cool, we'll expect it to be 10 years. When you say, here's this game, it's coming out soon, and it doesn't, something clearly happened that went wrong. That either the game, went wrong or you decided to work on something else.
Long development cycles are weird, right? I don't want to put Versus next to Duke Nukem, but that's kind of the poster child for something that did eventually come out right? And it was not up to snuff in any
Right.
regard. And just because something looks cool doesn't mean it is cool, though. But you should be psyched.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Also, just to be clear, we're not doing journalism right now. This isn't. We're just
What
talking.
is journalism?
Right. Yeah. It's you don't. There's no reason to
No,
get
really,
angry.
what is
We're
it?
just talking. Exactly. Like, this is just ReplyDay Friday. We're not like.
Well, I've been talking too much, so why don't you tackle a question
Okay.
or reply?
So Rob Kirkovich had an interesting one. He just said, "Hey, who is the best ninja in video games?" He positioned Scorpion.
Scorpion.
Yeah. As
Mainly
just
because of the fatality.
the fatality where he rips off his mask and he's a skull underneath. Cool guy. So a lot of the answers were the same for this one. A lot of Striders. A lot of the guy from Tenchu is apparently Ricky Maru. A lot of Ryu from Ninja Gaiden. And a lot of, or I like this one, Kakashi from Naruto.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know either. I had to Google it, but it's just because Rob said no, or like you need a mask if you're going to be a ninja. None of this Naruto stuff. So somebody like pointed at a Naruto guy who was wearing a mask, which I liked. The best to me is I agree with and Judo Nono and Junono. Said Gray Fox, so the cyborg ninja.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, easily the best video game ninja. in
Hurt
my
me
book.
more?
Yeah. Wants to be hurt more.
So
One of my favorite
best
scenes.
at like if we were to hire said ninja to do something, some ninja
just-
mission that we had,
just who you
this
think's
would be the
cool.
best person,
I
or
think
just coolness.
And carries on these ninja attributes. Like Ninja Turtles aren't very ninja-like most of the time. They're just kind of like
They're
walking
heroes
the street
in
in daylight.
England.
Yeah.
So
Although the second he walked in my room, he said, "Oh, I'm doing mine on who your favorite ninja is," and I said Michelangelo because I thought he meant
Party
turtles.
dude?
For some reason, I
Yeah,
heard ninja and immediately put turtles at the end of that. I was like, right on.
the ninjas were so cool. Do you remember the little Mario 2 little jumping like ninja star guy?
Yeah.
He had a
Yeah.
mask. But like even back then, I was like, oh, that guy's a ninja. But I
Yeah.
remember playing Shinobi. Like the Shinobi was like the one reason to be like, I heard Sega Master System has a Shinobi.
What-
I'm gonna go play it at Dairy Queen.
What about iNinja? Didn't that exist? Wasn't there like, or
Oh,
Mini
my
Ninja or
goodness.
Tiny Ninja?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah.
The little ninja platforming game?
Yeah.
That's my vote.
Ninja
No,
5-0?
don't vote for that. Actually, I do want to give one last person. SPQ Ninja PL
Ooh.
had ninja in the name, so I had to give this person some credit. My favorite ninja is from Body Blows, wink face. Good old fighting game released on Amiga and some ports by Team 17. I never heard of Body Blows before. So I assumed this person with ninja in the screen name like probably made a good choice. And so I looked at it. It's like an Amiga like PC fighting game that you needed a
this
joystick
person-
to
I
play.
think they're British.
Oh,
I'm gonna
because
guess
that's
an
Amiga's
Amiga
like a-
and Team 17.
Yeah.
There are Amigas out here too.
Alright,
That's why I
well,
like
yes.
ReplyDay Friday because I find out about games like Body Blows.
Yeah, Body Blows. Cool looking game. Kind of like Street Fighter, I guess, for computers.
Do you have a question for us, Brandon?
I do. My question was about tone, which admittedly is
you have your
maybe
prop?
just no, I don't have my prop with me.
Yours was my
Like
favorite
comedy
question.
genre
I loved that prop.
Oh, thanks.
I really liked it.
Yeah, this is something that is just different for every single person. But I got some good comments. Bart008 said, "It's kind of like BioShock Infinite. I want to loot everything I see, but it takes away from the tone or urgency of the story when I stop to take hot dogs off the people I just killed." Which is interesting, like item comedy.
Yeah.
Like being pulled out of realism. I guess it's more realism necessarily, like a comedy versus drama. But I thought that was a funny comment. Sir Georgie 7790. Was talking about Mass Effect 3. He said the game tries so hard to make you emotional, which in itself isn't a problem, but when you don't possess the technology to make good facial expressions, it just makes me laugh more than it's making me cry. Uncanny Valley, anyone? Which I thought was interesting.
I think Uncanny Valley is, this is the other side of Uncanny Valley, is tone. Because before, like, you do something and, like, the shitty graphics, you'd be like, whatever, I'm picking that up. But now it's like, as things become more realistic and, like, there's that level of like, truth or verisimilitude or whatever, it becomes even, it's not even, like, the fact that they don't look as human, but, like, even your actions kind of draw you out of it. Like, going off the first comment from Bart.
Right. USAC90 had, without a doubt, the best comment. Because I commented on Deus Ex and how I think it's silly. Then, like 15 years, the city developed, and he said, "It's sci-fi. Sci-fis aren't built off logic." That's good.
They kind of are, though.
It's like what's
Hard sci-fi.
science,
Yeah.
you know, they're not real science.
Yeah.
You don't want to base anything. I thought that was kind of funny. But actually, somebody pointed out. I don't know if it was a comment on here or a comment on another video, but somebody pointed out finally a good reason for the cities being super advanced in human revolution, which is that there's genetic augmentation and people have like stronger arms and stuff, so like they could
can build
conceivably
faster.
build a skyscraper
Okay,
in less
well,
time. So
you know what?
I'll buy
Yeah.
that.
Do you ever read any like William Gibson stuff? Like he in his second trilogy, like Japan was like rocked by like horrible accidents, and they rebuilt like Tokyo in no time because they just used nanotechnology. So like you know, the little doodads just running around just building.
Oh,
They would actually
cool.
grow buildings, is what they
Amazing.
called it. So
And
I
that
thought
wasn't
cool.
I really just brought up Deus Ex because it kind of prompted the question in my head when somebody mentioned that, where they're like, "It's sci-fi, you let it pass," and I was thinking like, what games do you give a pass? Because you're like, I don't, it
Yeah.
doesn't bother
All
me.
of them.
I made fun of Ramon Salazar from Resident Evil 4 because he cracks me up, and that game's supposed to be so serious.
Yeah.
And he said, on the subject of the Napoleonic evil dude, when he turned into a mega plant boss thing, I assure you, it wasn't funny. This is true.
But then he's a towering like mecha statue right after that, right?
Right.
That you have to run away from.
He's the end of Disc 1.
Oh, yeah, or at one point he comes at you. I think it's before the plant monster
okay.
that he does the big robot.
So funny.
I shot him with a rocket.
And I'll skip to Ominous.
scared.
Ominous Prime had a great one. This is an easy question for me to answer. The world is in peril. A handful of teenagers with zero experience in combat life or what have you are the only ones that will lift a finger to save the world. That just described just about any number of JRPGs.
Oh.
Which is its style, but it's like it's obviously that doesn't bother you. You know, it's like
They're special
you're okay.
teenagers. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's just franchises.
I always look at
that
their
you-
blood type in the instruction manual.
Yeah.
But I'll finish on Quantic Prophecy. Said Final Fantasy 13 really frustrated me with how they handled the story and tone. Serious themes have always been a part of Final Fantasy, but in 13, it seemed like they were really pushing it in its themes. The one thing that really bothers me about Final Fantasy, and I guess this comes up in a lot of Japanese stuff, is the like zero expression while I'm fighting. That like I'm clearly engaged in a really tough fight, but like I'm not phased. Like I'm gonna the expression that I have at the beginning of the fight is the same expression I have at the end of the fight. And it'd be neat to see the characters in Final Fantasy games like look frustrated or look scared, or I just
God
saw
of
Iron
War
Man
is
3.
really
and,
good at that.
yeah.
God of War has Kratos. His expressions are crazy when he's fighting. I can see that.
And
yeah.
even like in game, but like just in cinemas when I think there's one in the first trailer where she does like a flip and she's just like a mannequin, and it's neat. I was going to mention Iron Man 3, where I think a lot of people love Robert Downey Jr. because he brings a lot of humanity to the role, and you really sense when he's like down and out and doesn't think he can do it. And I just don't get that vibe from Final Fantasy. They're either on or they're off.
They're pretty cool
You don't
the
really
whole
get a
time.
sense.
Faces are hard though. I mean, that goes back
Sure.
to the Uncanny Valley. Like I remember a billion years ago when Half-Life 2 was coming out, they were talking about all the Combine wear the helmets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though before we were fighting guys on Half-Life 1 and stuff. And it's because they had to spend so much time on the pupils on like Alex Vance when she was with you, and the handful, like Barney and the handful of other characters. Because it's really like, they say like, I'm going to sound like a dork right now, but like the eyes are kind of like the mirror of the soul, but
Right.
it adds so much.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you just put a bunch of little polys there, it's these little tiny pixels on the screen, but it can like really pay out huge and actually having that kind of involvement. But it is weird. Faces, they're locked down so
And obviously
much.
something that we'll hopefully see more in advance of. We kind of made interesting strides with L.A. Noire and other games like that. I think the faces in Grand Theft Auto 5 look really great.
Cool.
Specifically Michael. But finally, Long Rifle Jack wrote an essay on Vanquish, which
he's a long-time commenter.
he was
a
very
cool dude.
frustrated. He was very frustrated with that game and the tone. Kind of thought it went back and forth. But I mean, wrote a humongous comment. So I won't necessarily rattle it all off right now. But thank you, Long Rifle Jack, for contributing.
I'm going to tackle Patrick's question, which was he posed it as about min-maxing, but it was also kind of about like just cheesing an exploit in a way because he found a certain combination that worked for BioShock. Though, I mean, I don't know how you guys define min-maxing, but I have an actual kind of more strict definition where you go for one stat that you have control over. Like, what class did you play in Warcraft? Hunter, so you'd go for agility, dexterity, or whatever.
Yeah.
And like forget about magic, right?
Yeah,
like, just
you
only
don't
pile
care
up.
about
Yeah.
int or spirit or whatever.
No.
And Diablo was really kind of infamous for that. I can go into the whole thing. First, though, a lot of people commented on Patrick's shirt, and it's a mimic.
Oh, it's a
from,
great shirt. Yeah.
From I think McWhorter's meat bun thing. So you can probably, I don't know, those may have sold out, but you can check that out. A quick comment from Woolhead. He said some games like FTL are made with min-maxing in mind, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I loved FTL, but it had that kind of 2-hour, go at it 2-hour, little bit of luck. So it is about kind of like what does the world throw at you, and how are you going to use that to your best advantage? And I think that is kind of a good point where you can, that does work. Waradako. You guys need to have easier to pronounce names. He says, min-maxing definitely takes away from the experience for me.
What if that's that person's real name?
Then I apologize. I get this really cool-looking armor or weapon, but I have to exchange the cool stuff for the best stuff in order to be able to be competitive, etc. It's not fun. I feel like MMO-wise, they've definitely, can't you transmorgify whatever you have to make it look like
in
whatever
a lot
you
of
want?
games now, yeah.
But it is kind of interesting. I do like where you don't always have to go for the best thing. Do you want the best Pokemon, or do you like the Pokemon that you like, Kyle?
There's no such thing as the best Pokemon, but I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm using it as an analogy.
I like the Pokemon I like. Exactly.
Yeah, and they should be viable, right?
They are all viable.
I'm a big fan of leveling up weapons. I really like that.
Me
when
too.
You just get that one weird thing that even if it doesn't do more damage than the other things, it's like I just like the aesthetic. I like the way it feels, like the way my character looks when he's holding it.
It's like yours. That's
and
your
then you
weapon.
can just put all your gems, your materia, whatever, into that thing and level that up. I think that's an interesting solve.
Matt Folk says, I would say that this is a fundamental flaw in game design. When the designer ignores the possibility that players want to or will min-max their playthrough, you will essentially be getting a completely undesigned experience. I think that's kind of a broad stroke statement, and I'm not sure if I completely get it, but I like him kind of going out there and giving like an ultimatum kind of on what's happening.
Undesigned is pretty low. Your game is undesigned.
But
you went backwards.
Did you guys play Fable?
Oh yeah.
I would always level up the spell that knocks people down. It's like Force Push, which is really weak, but if you level it up enough, it's hilarious. You walk around, you never fight anyone, you just keep making everyone trip, and they trip to death.
You keep walking?
Well, yeah, or you kill them, the little hobs and stuff, the Bavarians and whatever, Bulverines, is that what they call it?
Balverines.
Balverines, yeah. But it was kind of funny. It is kind of weird to think of all these complex systems and everything you have to take into account for. But yeah, when you find like that easy road, that easy path, it does sometimes feel like you're maybe like selling yourself short.
Speaking of Fable, there was one, the second I found the memory game that had like the 4 cards by 4 and you had to like piece all the things together, I just did that for about 4 hours, got like billions of dollars. I just did that one afternoon, that's all I did. I probably would not have the patience to do that
In Red Dead
now.
Redemption, I got really good at this game.
Yeah.
And I just I just crushed it. Just got a lot of, I think you get experience and money for that, right? I don't remember.
But then I went back to like my hometown, killed everybody there, bought every house, turned it into a ghost town.
You give the Satan horns and everything?
I wasn't necessarily a bad guy. I think by then, yeah, it was bad.
That's funny. I'd assume you'd play games as good guys.
I always do, but I think it was like right before the end. I think I'd like done good guy the whole time, and then I was like, well, I'll never talk to these people again.
What happened to your character?
I'll never see them.
Why did he change his mind like that?
I think I was old by that point, so I had like the horns growing in, but I was already pale, and I had like the white hair, so I was like Gandalf devil. It was weird.
Did you find you had to rationalize your character's actions and like going nuts like that?
Not by that point. I think it was
like,
right at the end.
Yeah. I need these evil achievement points. And I had to bring up Cash Prizes, who's now been the constant commenter. And he said min-maxing in Mass Effect 2 was great. It gave me a reason to scour all the awesome environments for weapon upgrades, to talk to my crew between every mission, and to play through the game again, New Game Plus style, Evil Shepherd the second time, to max out upgrade paths. The game stayed challenging and fun as long as you turned up the difficulty appropriately. I never really thought of Mass Effect as a min-max game, but...
Oh, it totally is.
I guess you do. It seems like you kind of choose your little paths for like how you want to suit your play style.
Yeah.
But I guess it is the kind of the case where you, again, going off Patrick's original comment, you can totally find whatever class you're playing, what works for you, and if you get good at it, it can feel kind of like an exploit.
For instance, in Mass Effect, I dedicated my character only to sniping. And so like any like little magic powers or anything, like I completely ignored.
But would you turn invisible?
Did it do invisible?
That's kind of magic.
Because like invisible leads into like it boosts your sniping.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like I worried about these two things, and yeah, it's just I could take out anyone in like 3 hits.
I guess
Eventually.
I guess have a fundamental problem with the idea of focusing on something versus like min-maxing. Like min-max to me seems like a dirty word. Well, if you kind of like, I'm going to dabble, instead of being a dabbler, I'm going to focus on something, I feel like that seems okay. But I guess I'm just splitting hairs, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, to me, I think like there is a risk reward to min-maxing. I don't see it as an issue because like you are giving up something. I don't understand why it's a dirty word to me.
I've never lost sleep over it. Yeah, I've never really thought of this as a quote-unquote issue, or more like a strategy.
Yeah.
Well, when it's the only way to be a really rewarding path and to really dominate, and that's again what Patrick said, it went into more of the multiplayer stuff. That's where it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of messed up. Because like Diablo 2, for instance, if you put a single wrong point into one of your
that can be scary.
skills,
Yeah.
you're fucked with that character.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
That's
and then you're not
awful.
viable. But that's, I mean, multiplayer is a whole different world for that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you got one more question for us, Kyle. Your
Sure.
question, right?
Yeah, this was my question. It was about failed pre-orders. Basically, if you've ever pre-ordered a game and then not picked it up, which I have done to a couple of games. And then, so Floped or Flopped with only one P said, did this with Aliens Colonial Marines. I had the collector's edition pre-ordered. Best $100 I ever saved. I like that comment. That's a short, easy one. Just like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to spend the $100. And clearly, that person's reasoning was the reviews came in.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're ordering the special edition, you're a dedicated fan. You're really convinced this game's going to be great, and then the reviews pop up, and then you're like.
And that I think is why I don't squabble over like points when people are like 9.2. You know, it's like, because he knew, he could tell right away. You know, it like didn't matter what one person scored it versus another. Like the general vibe across the internet was stay away from this game unless you're just like, you're all about aliens and you have to do it. And I'm all about aliens and I still didn't play that game.
Wow.
So
yeah,
I think
that's telling.
I think once people realize that, it, you know, like again, just like little 0.1, 0.2 here and there, I don't think it makes a big difference as long as like the message gets out.
This comment I liked a lot. It's from Thwap23. I think the problem here is that most gamers are creative and usually pretty optimistic about games when they first get announced. And a lot of times the concept and idea behind a game can be a lot more exciting than what the game turns out to be. As more and more media gets released and a better picture of what the game is truly starts to form a lot of times, it doesn't live up to what we fantasized about and hyped it up in our heads. Between that and other games overshadowing our interest, it's easy for that excitement to fizzle out. Do you think that's true? That people who like video games are more inclined to be more imaginative and like pile on our own like thoughts on like these games being better than they ever will be?
I like
to a degree.
I like to think so. I mean, that might be like a terrible thing. Like I don't want to like talk down to people who don't play games and just watch television. But like you think about it, like, you know, there's some people like, you know, like my parents who are just like, oh, you know, I can watch this narrative, I'll watch this movie, I'll watch that thing, like, and that's how I got my entertainment, and then I'll go to my job the next day, and that's fine. Whereas like gamers, I think, want a little bit more. They're like, no, I want to change that, or no, I want to, you know, I don't want to like just watch somebody. I want to be that character. I want to live in that world.
And I think there are CSI fans, but when I think CSI Miami was announced, no one was like, oh, CSI Miami, yes. You know, there's not that thing. Do you know what I mean? And I think that does exist in video games.
Yeah, I think a lot of this has to go with kind of what you were talking about last week with just like internet culture and the hype machine before, when it was maybe a magazine cover and some of those screenshots.
Yeah.
And maybe on your 28.8K modem you would download like, you know, a 160 by 120 QuickTime video off of IGN.
Then my dreams.
Well, I think also you're not
but
going to...
now people buy into it, right? Like people are liking things on Facebook, and now it's even crazier with social. So you do get kind of caught up in the storm, especially with the bigger games.
But I think that excitement is imagining the experience that lies before you.
Well, it's like kind of like reverse sour grapes, right? You are going to eat the grapes, and they're not sour, but they weren't. They're not particularly as good as they could have been, because our imaginations are going to hopefully, you know, are still going to be a step above what people can design.
Yeah, and sometimes their games are better than our imaginations.
Also, you know, if you see a movie trailer, and a movie trailer's 3 minutes, and the you know film is 120 minutes, like that's more real estate of the final product than say a 2-minute trailer for a 40-hour game.
Yeah.
Like you're really only seeing a slice of this. Like so you can't you do imagine
even a
kind
demo.
of like, wow, I just saw that one environment. I wonder what it looks like when you leave that cave or whatever. Or like in the movie, it's like, okay, at the end of the movie, all the monsters show up. I got it. I know what that movie ending is. I just don't know exactly how it plays out.
Yeah.
But I think also, with film and television, there's more of a chance to like stumble upon something. Like you can just turn on HBO and like, oh, I never saw this movie, you know, or like, you know, some episode of some show will come on after the show you're watching, and you're like, oh, I'll watch this show. Whereas like you don't stumble across games. You know, you really need to like, you know, boot up, you know, Xbox Live Arcade and go through the tabs to see what the cool games have been released.
I'm curious if like Steam sales or PlayStation Plus could maybe be changing that a little bit. Like the idea of sampling, you know.
Yeah.
Or just hitting the used game bin.
We interrupt your game for this other game.
McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's.
Do we have time for one more?
Sure.
Can we do one more? I like this one. This is from Stardust Ziggy. I think there are just so many games to play and tons of other media to consume that sometimes stuff just gets swept aside by other things. This is why I never buy a new game until I've beaten my previous purchase. You're a hero.
Discipline.
That's cool, Stardust Ziggy. I try to do that, but that is a hard thing to do.
Especially here.
Beat the game you're working on now before you buy the next one.
That's why I usually don't pre-order games, because whenever games come out, I'm always playing some game. You know, I'm always like BioShock Infinite came out and I was still playing StarCraft. So I'm like, okay, I'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
You know, and then like I strolled into the to Best Buy and like bought a copy. There were plenty there. You know, I didn't have to like.
I don't pre-order anything.
So do you two
ever?
Do you two have games at your homes right now that you haven't played yet?
That I haven't finished, but not that I haven't like cracked open.
Nothing I've purchased.
Yeah.
A couple games that I've acquired through nefarious means.
Like working at.
I remember when I was in my early 20s.
Well, the closet clean out stuff.
Yeah.
In my early 20s, I was talking to a kid who was in like
Steam
junior
Library
high, I
doesn't
think
count.
maybe like a freshman in high school, and he was going through my PS2 games, and he was like, "Oh, Sons of Liberty! Oh, it's so great!" And I was like, "Yeah, I never finished that game." And like that, his mind exploded.
That's
he was
a weird
like,
one to
"You
not
own
finish."
this game and you didn't finish?" I'm like, "No, I never really jumped in." I think like Vice City came out at the same year or something. I can't really
Yeah.
played something else. And like he couldn't, It was like owning a game, you have to, if it's in your hands,
I think it was
maybe
maybe the first GTA came out that year. But anyway, yeah. I
So-
could see where you get distracted.
So I think we're gonna wrap this up. But what is this stuff on the table, Kyle?
Oh, my.
You brought.
I they look like prizes to me.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to give some stuff away. If you live in America or Canada, and I guess Mexico, there's
Sure.
FedEx in Mexico, probably.
Don't ask me.
I don't know how the rates work.
So, cash prizes. You've been in all of these, so by default, we're gonna send
Cash
you
prizes, get some cash prizes.
Just
Yeah.
for being a frequent.
We said it
commenter.
before. Of course, getting into contact with you is going to be interesting, but we'll find a way. And if not, watch the next episode, and by that point, we'll have a way. Did you guys have
Well,
any?
explain
any-
what this is. This is like a random
It's called a toy.
Monster Hunter toy. Like you open it up and
I
you
mean,
don't
a
even,
model.
It's going to be one of these 8 different monsters. You don't even know until you open it up which
Is there a
monster
mystery
monster
percentage?
you're getting. No.
No.
I think
So,
probably equal.
It's from our friends at Capcom. And then Kyle, you supplied. Oh, this one's hardcover.
Yeah, some
All
like
right.
Dead Space graphic novels.
Necromorphs.
These are apparently okay. Mike Huber loves these, apparently.
This guy's named Christopher.
Loves the
Shaw.
Dead Space lore.
Oh, these are
So
some good
anyway,
names.
we're going to nominate the comment of the week. Like we each have a
You had one,
nomination.
right?
Well, sci-fis aren't built off logic, and you can't beat that. I don't know if that's a quote unquote good comment.
Sure,
but
that's a
it
decent
certainly amused
nomination.
me.
I want to nominate Thwap23, the person who made this argument that we're more disappointed because we're imagining too much.
I like compliments. Yeah, that's good. I like that. We have a couple books though, so.
Well, yeah, I can maybe track down USAC 90, and for a little
Which
bit of
one was
brevity
USAC
there.
90?
He was sci-fis aren't built off logic.
Okay.
He deserves to be
Logically.
rewarded for that.
I don't. These things. Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we have one more then. You want to do all 3, like 3 comments of the week?
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan,
Okay.
Pick one.
Oh God,
Ryan,
Well,
come on.
cash prizes was so there.
Stop giving things to
But
Who
cash
said-
prizes just wins
Who
by
said
involvement.
Tenchu? No.
Yeah,
Too many people
Rikamaru.
said Tenchu to call one person out for that.
Wampa, thanks for taking me to task and saying games journalist.
Games
in
journalist
quotes.
quotation marks.
I can eat my vitamins with my cereal as well. I don't think that's a real phrase. So
It is now.
you too will be reading graphic novels and sequential art inspired by the world of Dead Space.
Until then.
that went well.
Yeah.
Ish, till right now.
This is
thanks,
still
guys.
great. We're
Yeah,
still
it just,
doing good.
It just got really awkward in here. I think I might have to leave.
So there's no invisible walls this week, so maybe more people will watch this. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I'm gonna try one more thing. It's called begging. If you like this show and people seem to like this show, tell your friends to watch it, and then maybe more people will watch it, and we'll do some more stuff, better giveaways and crap like that, because that's how things actually work.
Yeah.
So if you like it, tell your friends or watch it twice. Thank you. Bye.